Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. More major development on the Dashy versus OpTic saga, and sad development to that really as well we shall dive into. But also with Seattle Surge getting bodied by Atlanta FaZe, did they make a key mistake by not allowing Pred to go to OpTic given the buyout they were potentially offering him? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. Couple of quick bowling memes here. This is a nice one here from Toronto. I thought actually the trophy that OpTic are going to give out to you at Major 3. We'll see what they come up with. And even in a few minutes time when we're discussing the matches of tonight, Ramo could just not get away with this and he will not escape this for a long time to come, I'm sure about it. Quick update on the iLLeY visa stuff, just because Shotzzy did indeed confirm on stream that yes, iLLeY's visa's been denied, or at least that's Shotzi's point of view. When Shotzzy says something, you never really know if what he says is actually the truth or not. Now, I don't deny that iLLeY's obviously got some visa difficulties, whether that's completely a denial or whether it's going to take 2 weeks like Shotzzy thinks, whether it's going to take 2 days, whether it's going to take 2 months, I don't know. But nonetheless, it's got to be said that potentially there needs to be a backup plan for OpTic if everything goes wrong here at the major, or at least in terms of getting iLLeY there. Benjay Nassim, I don't exactly know what the origin is. I know this is Ted Cruz. I don't know who this guy is. I'm sure you guys get this one. I mean, obviously the idea is in theory he's got to call up the Senate to get his visa sorted, but like I'm not sure why these two blokes in particular, but nonetheless they've got to have some sort of backup plan, right? And at the end of the day, Dashy is subjected or contracted, right, to OpTic as their substitute. So if they were required to use a substitute, Dashy would be obliged to play for them, right? So look, we don't know at this point. iLLeY's going to play the qualifiers online, but if he can't get to LAN, then Dashy will be the option, I guess. I mean, I don't know if that's ever going to work, especially in light of what Dashy says here in a second. But I guess if OpTic forced him to, then he would kind of have to, because he is their sub after all. And also he's getting ready for Major 2. Like, he's not just going to put down the controller for a month. He wants to grind hard to try and get a spot either immediately before Major 2 if Teams continues to struggle, or after Major 2 is certainly when he'll be planning to get back in. Quick additional one here from LA Thieves, thought was kind of funny. We've got to dive again into this Dashy versus OpTic stuff, because there was just so much said on this, and yesterday Dashy and well, Benjay Nassim get in a stream and have a discussion on this, kind of further clarifying the details, and Ben went pretty hard at this, I'm not gonna lie. He asked him straight up the question of, how does Dashy feel about his now former teammates in Shotzzy and Scump, and maybe iLLeY has a slightly different opinion of, but look, we know he doesn't get on with Ramo Ray, that's been made very evident, but we did wonder, how does he feel about Scump, how does he feel about Shotzzy, like, because with Scump, right, he's been friends with Scump and Shotzzy maybe to a lesser extent, but for years, right, I mean, even, I guess, Shotzzy, I think Dashy came across Shotzzy during the end of the Black Ops 4 season when they were doing Chals and stuff. He teamed with Scump during the Black Ops 4 season, and Scump said in the podcast episode that he gets on really well with Dashy, loves him as a person, but, you know, when things like this happen, the feeling is often not necessarily reciprocated, and Dashy wouldn't even really bring himself to say in this clip that, you know, he even feels like those guys are friends right now. He feels like when he's off a team that it's kind of him versus them. It's almost like a Crim6 mentality. It's funny how it's come full circle of Crim and Dashy being on opposite sides of the spectrum and now being somewhat aligned. Crim has always said this, right? If he's not teaming with you, you are the enemy. And Dashy kind of says, you know what, I'm not going to mess around with you really in terms of friendship and all this type of stuff if I'm no longer on your team. And yeah, Shotzi's thoughts on there being no bad blood the other day have kind of been proven wrong.
On that, but between you, Seth, you and Ender, like, are you guys still cool, or is there still some time? I think you guys need to not talk to each other a bit before you guys kind of are back on good terms, or is it sort of no hard feelings at this point?
I mean, like, to be honest, like if I'm not teaming with people, then I don't really like talk to them or care for them. To be honest, it's nothing against them. It's just like they're just no longer my teammates. You know what I mean? So it's just like a.
But like, do you still consider them friends though?
I mean, like, I don't know. Like, it's.
I mean, look, this is a weird. I'll be honest, bro. Like,
maybe when I retire, they get it.
Yeah.
It's just hard in the moment. I don't know.
This kind of. I'm sorry for like asking this question, because it's like you might think differently in like 6 months now that some time's passed, but like.
So it's kind of sad in a way, right, that this relationship deteriorated to this extent, and like I do think it's small things at the end of the day. As I said earlier today, right, if Scump and Shotzzy came to Dashy and gave him a different set of reasonings and said, hey, we want to make a change, we want to move on, we've got to try something the team underperformed, we feel like moving Scump to the flex and making XYZ change is going to be for the best. If they didn't give Dashy the reasons that he believes were BS, then more than likely these kind of consequences don't quite happen in the same way. But even Slackdog goes on to say here, anyone who doesn't know how Dashy is feeling, it hasn't gone through this. I've questioned friendships after a team change based on how things were handled with people I considered close friends. It took a lot of time and my whole perspective changed. Things get better though. So look, I'm sure down the line, give it a few months, Dashy's going to feel like, you know what, those guys are still friends. It's all okay. I mean, look, we saw with Crim and Scump, right? They had incredible beef and drama. And then, you know, at one point they kind of put it to bed and put it behind them. And I'm sure they can still meet up and have a beer and have a, you know, have a laugh as well about things that have happened. So I don't think this is going to be the end of the, you know, relationships and the positive vibes between Dashy, Scump and Shotzzy. But nonetheless, for the short term, he's not considering those guys friends really for the time being, while he, you know, well, tries to take revenge is, I suppose, going to be one of the elements here. And even a few years ago when kind of Slasher and JCap, I mean, it was during Cold War where Slasher got dropped by LA Thieves and he blames JCap for that situation. Like, I think Jacob even said a year later that they still weren't on talking terms, despite having won a world championship together in 2015. So I don't know if now Jacob and Slasher are on good terms again, because let's be honest here, Dashy and Rambo probably were never on good terms and certainly won't be in the future. But hopefully with Scump and Shotzzy they can get things resolved. But it's probably just time is going to heal, I imagine, this one. But still, it was quite surprising, I thought, for Dashy to say that given the circumstances, but understandable nonetheless. Now, will Dashy go down to challenges? He did mention actually that doing it just to get some reps in wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, but it probably won't be required based on the teams that might be looking to make moves. Now, we've got to talk about the games today as well, because the final one that we're going to discuss in this video between FaZe and Surge is definitely relevant to this OpTic discussion. Scrappy has been going rogue as well. He looked through some cards here. He saw Slacked and was like, oh my god, like he singled out Slack to say this guy was terrible, and he was going hard as well against the second series of the day. Actually, no, it's the first series, sorry. We'll see here in a second. So Thieves play, we'll talk about their series tomorrow, and this one from Scrappy, right? This is the most exciting series of the year, Battle of the Titans, and this was between Los Angeles Guerrillas and the Florida Mutineers. So obviously he's being rather sarcastic. I found this tweet hilarious, to be perfectly honest. I thought it was a good one. And also Scrappy's got beef with Joe Deceives, right? Who was recently brought into the starting team over there, so you know that's partly where some of this stuff comes from. Even Assault, I mean, this was crazy, right? How did they not win this series? I don't understand LAG. They won game 1 pretty comfortably. They lost a round 11 game 2 that they really should have probably won, at least that map, right, in the series, and then went up 2-0 in the control, got a 4-man wipe here, like 4 kills with the streak. You barely ever see that. Certainly that's got to be the first time we've seen that this year. You'd think if you get 4 kills with a single missile, like you're gonna win the round, no problem, right? But no, they somehow lose this round anyway, lose the map 3-2, completely choke it. They do still manage to win the game 4, but it was actually Havoc that set a new record for control kills, at least at 40 kills and 26 deaths. So Scrappy has the record at 40.5 points. He's now matched it in control. Really impressive performance from Havoc this entire series. Takes them to a map 5, and even Scrappy says that TJ, I'm losing full watching this. These guys are awful. So you know, Scrappy he doesn't know when to shut up, but I love him. I love him for it, right? No doubt about it. And then Florida win the series game 5. Vikil, it was hilarious really, because he's had a hair transplant recently, so he's not allowed to wear his headset. So what he's doing is just using earbuds. You can barely see the earbuds, so I actually thought he was just playing off pure instinct. But no, I think he did have earbuds in and was actually hearing things. Look at him, he's talking to the camera about this guy's out of control. Love to see it. And yeah, honestly, great work and fair play to Havoc and Brack. These guys went off this series, and what I found mind-blowing was that Arcitys was sitting there like this during the series. This was like, I think they were down 5-1 at this point, and Arcitys was sitting there falling asleep because, I mean, yeah, he can't be having a great time for multiple reasons. He also says after the series, my settings were messed up, had a new PC just before the games because he was getting non-stop scan and repair. So yeah, I guess the mental was kind of chalked on that one. But the fact they didn't win that series was kind of mind-blowing to me. And yeah, LAG go down game 5. Florida are hilarious, to be honest. They're always just going to 2-3-5 you. They've done it again. And even against a team like LAG that's probably not that good in respawn, let's be honest here, they still managed to 2-3-5 them. Good to see Brack back in the league. Havoc had a great series as well. But I mean, yeah, Brack 1.46, most damage in the lobby. That's the guy we've been missing, right? He was so good in Black Ops 4 and didn't get a chance until now. So good to see Florida gave him a go. They win that series 3-2. Then another big storyline here was Afro in the Minnesota Rokkr series. The entire Rokkr team apparently got food poisoning from something or other. They were all up, according to their coach, at like 4 in the morning, trying to, you know, do anything to make sure they wouldn't feel so bad, but they did. And Afro was like this apparently earlier in the day, wasn't looking so good. And the team went absolutely crazy game 1 to win London that map, and Minnesota go down 1-0. Then quickly they go down 2-0 as well in the series. Now, just wanted to give you guys the guesstimate. You guys can play along with this one. How many comments do we have to scroll through here before we find one that isn't bowling related? You guys have got a couple of guesses. Take an over-under on about 7. I think the answer's about 7. So here we go. We've got one from Pal about the strike. This one as well. Okay, number 2, number 3 about bowling. This is the Crim6 one, which is also bowling. This is 5, this is 6. This is technically not bowling, I guess, but what does he even do? It's pretty good. Then we've got another bowling one. Then this is the first one from Hunter here, at least on my list, that isn't specifically bowling related. Then bowling alley, bowling match, bowling today, bowling scribs, wrong SMG, hit a strike, here for the comments. So, I mean, yeah, hilarious stuff, and I gotta love the COD community for stuff like this, to be honest. Now, this was the map that a scene went absolutely crazy in. Somehow Rokkr they just don't win game ones, do they? Let's be honest. Doesn't matter what team they've got. They should have won this one, probably. They still managed to find a way to choke it. They always come in different in game 4, though. I simply don't understand. But yeah, a crazy play from a seam. But it didn't matter in the end. It's funny when you watch European teams play, because you know that someone's got a choke in them. It was either going to be London getting reverse swept, or it was going to be Rokkr somehow losing a game 5 round 11. But Afro on game 3, 4, and 5, despite being unwell, Afro had a 2 KD across game 3, 4, and 5. He went, I think it was 69 kills, 35 deaths across those 3 maps. Like, absolutely out of control. He put the backpack on big time. Scraps had a hard time, 0.7 in this series. And yeah, that's the thing, right, with the whole Scraps thing and the Friendship League. And, you know, this guy didn't do anything in challenges, really. Comes back in, had a decent first series. This series, not so much. So, you know, questions going to be raised. But Afro just put the team on the back completely, has somehow brought Minnesota through this one. And as Cammy says, he felt awful. The entire team probably did. So, you know, good result for them. But the fact that London lost to 4 guys with no cameras on because they were feeling so bad, like, not a good sign for them at all. I think London now on a 7 series losing streak, which is a bit of a shambles. So they've got to sort that one out, and fast. Now, the final series we shall discuss today is this one, Seattle Surge versus FaZe. This to me was, I thought FaZe were going to win this one, and I thought potentially kind of comfortably. We know that Surge aren't good in search and destroy, and we'd heard rumours that FaZe were looking nasty behind the scenes. Prid was looking like this after game 1 because, like, he was thinking, damn, I could have been, just like Arcitys was, right? I could have been an OpTic with, you know, Shotzzy and Scump and these guys, but instead I am stuck here not having a particularly good time. And this is where we finally saw, for the first time in a long time, Cold War Simp back in the building. Now, I mentioned for you guys a few days ago, to be honest, my opinion that Simp is arguably the most talented COD player I've ever seen play the game. I've watched this guy for 8 years, since the Black Ops 3 Search and Destroy days, and like, I watched a lot of Black Ops 3 competitive, played a lot of it, watched the pros play. Simp had a different POV to anyone I'd seen in that game, and he was 15 years old at the time. He came into Black Ops 4, was the best player in the world by a margin. He did the same thing the next year in Modern Warfare pretty much, and then came into Cold War and dominated the entire scene that year. This season and last season, really, we haven't seen this Simp so far. This, by the way, is a 16 kill streak in Control, which breaks the CDL record. He was 17 in 1 at one point. He actually went for a crazy ego challenge on Simp, but they almost lost the round for it, but it didn't matter because the confidence was sky high. He finishes this map 30 in 14, and they win relatively comfortably, and that locks up the series incredibly fast. The hardpoint was quick, the search was like 6-2, they're up 5-0, and they dominated the Control. And this is the thing with Simp, right? And this is the scary thing about FaZe as well. This was the particular screenshot. Cellium was 2 in 5. He did basically nothing this series, which is fine if you're Cellium, you're loving it. If I'm Crowder, I'm loving this performance. This is what you want to see. You want to see, we know what Simp's got in the locker. It just feels like this guy's been filling gaps for the last 18 months, rather than actually being the off-the-leash, just dominance. Like, when you let Simp loose, and he can use his awareness and his gun skill, it's just unbelievable. It's mesmerizing to watch sometimes, watching Simp run around the map. And it wasn't just him. Like, Slasher had a great series, so did aBeZy. But, yeah, it just seems to me that when Cellium is the guy taking a bit more of a back seat, and Simp is the guy stepping up and delivering, like, that's when you see these unbelievable series from FaZe. This is what they did to teams, even good teams, regularly in Cold War, because aBeZy and Simp would go off, Cellium would do whatever, one of their ARs would do well, either Cellium or Slasher. In this case, it was Slasher, and they just bowl over the other very talented team still, just without even putting up any resistance. So that's the scary thing for FaZe. If they figured out the way to make these roles work, then, you know, the league is in for a serious wake-up call at this stage in terms of what FaZe can do with this roster. So yeah, that's a sign of things to come, I think, for FaZe, and hopefully we get to see more of this version of Simp, because he's just so much fun to watch when he's on form like that. And also the Pred stuff, right? Because Surge said no to the massive buyout that OpTic offered. We can see, obviously, Gersh does a good job here. Free Pred, he's in jail. He writes on the wall, yo, Lamar, let me out, please. Bail, buyout, 2 million. I don't know where the 2 million number came from. I don't think that was a real number, but who knows? But yeah, are Surge regretting their decision to say no? Now they've just got 3-0 bopped by FaZe, and they're not looking so good, really, so far, since making this decision to keep Pred around. And could OpTic therefore still get him as a result if the team actually changes their mind on keeping Pred? Very much enjoyed your thoughts down below. Hit the like button if you you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.